Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
It looks good.
Well, it's just...
Well, every time. All right, we are serious today. Happy Muse Day, everyone.
That's right.
Happy Muse Day, Dan Kent.
Yes.
You got nothing going on today, so we're just gonna relax, hang out a bit, just spend some time.
That's right.
You got nothing going on. I'm gonna ask you a personal question in front of our MuseCast peeps, because that's how we're rolling. How anxious are you about your Wednesday morning appointment? And I'm not going to say what it is. You can say what it is if you want. But are you at all anxious? Or are you just more like, I got to get it done?
Yeah. I'm supposed to meet with President Trump on Wednesday to get some things figured out. And this country
gonna solve it all.
That's right. This country needs my help.
That's right.
So
they do.
Did I say Trump? I meant the dentist. That's
right.
Sometimes I get those confused.
Yeah.
So
it's easy to do.
Yeah, I'm going to see the dentist to it's just a cleaning and a checkup and nothing to worry about. So but it's been a long time. It's been years.
I was gonna say, how long has it been?
I don't know exactly. But it's been years. And but I feel good. It's Wednesday morning. I see the dentist, and so Tuesday night I'm gonna pull an all-nighter and just brush my teeth until my appointment. So
gonna cram.
Yeah, gotta cram. Just catch up on what, in case I've missed some brushes, I'll just get it all caught up the night before. So I should be good to go. Wednesday
it's gonna be a perfect appointment.
That's right.
My question for you though, Dan, is why would you do that this week of all particular weeks? You got some stuff going on, sir.
Yeah, it's a little busy, but I scheduled it, months ago.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. It always ends up being the worst time, but you just got to get it done. So
you just got to go. Okay. Do you need a driver? Because we have another staff member who needs a driver.
Yeah, for some reason, well, some people are really terrified. To me, it's a big inconvenience and it's uncomfortable, but I don't have fear of it. When we played the mystery game, remember the mystery box game when you and I played?
Don't talk about this mystery box.
Yeah, that scared me more because I have no idea what I'm reaching my hand into. And the dentist, I know what I'm getting into. So
pretty much you do. And if there's any surprises, usually they'll have you come back for those. So I think you'll be good. That mystery box, count me out.
We'll never do that again.
Never.
Yes.
Mark our words. We're never doing it again. All right. Well, prayers for Dan, for his appointment and for all these got going on this week. But first, he's got to deliver a summary because Greg, that Boyd, he just likes to set the bar, and then those of us schlumps that follow him are just left to okay.
That's a tough act to follow right there, isn't it?
For sure.
Do you remember the title?
A kindness revolution.
Yay, you got it.
Oh, you got it.
This show is starting off strong.
Nailed it. All right. I'm ready for you.
Okay. All right. That was a little bit of a rocky transition. Before I start, don't go anywhere yet. Congratulations. The Chiefs finally won a game.
Good God. And let me congratulate you. The Vikings had a nice bounce back win. That.
Really
wow.
Good. Yeah.
They took care of some business, like we like to say.
So we're both starting off strong and optimistic and positive for this episode. And and what a great episode to have that happen on anyway. Let me switch to sermon review here. And so a kindness revolution. So we're in this Love Is series, and love is this, love is that. There's the 1 Corinthians 13 where Paul just really unpacks all of the aspects of love. And I'm probably gonna do this a little out of order, but I really like how Greg did that, where if you imagine what Paul is doing here is he's looking at agape love as this big jewel, and there are all these different aspects or different there's got to be better like jewelry terms there, but like you get these different illuminations and stuff. Do you have a term for this?
Facets, isn't it?
Facets. Yeah, that's good. And so each of these things, love is kind, love is, not boasting or not arrogant and so forth. And so that's kind of what we're doing is we're just going through each facet of that jewel. And really it's probably always a good time to do this, but given the social turmoil in the United States, at least, it's a good time to really sink our teeth into this one. And so he looked in particular at kindness this week. And now, before he did that, he talked about some of the things that are going on that really why we really need this series. Just the polarization, a lot of the hostility that people have toward some of their fellow citizens, and particularly related to which has made the polarization extremely intense right now was the shooting of Charlie Kirk. And he just responded to, why we didn't mention Charlie's name last week. And but he used that as a way of kind of really showing us how unkind we really are right now. We're not naturally kind. And so I thought it was a useful setup. It was a useful kind of glimpse into what's happening in our culture right now. And it was a great way to set up this discussion on a kindness revolution. And so he looks at 1 Corinthians 13, and after unpacking that, he just starts talking about kindness, and he's got 4 kind of things that he wants to say on it. The first one is the importance itself, on why this is so important. And he gave some examples of, different acts of kindness, and really what you see every time we're kind to someone, when we do something nice for them, when we acknowledge them, when we share something with them, at the very baseline of that, we are demonstrating their value. We are activating their own sense of dignity, that they matter. And that's really important, because we live in a world where the world kind of wants to tell us that we don't really matter, but God says that we do. And so anytime that we can activate that sense of dignity in people, that sense that they matter, we really are communicating God's message to them, that they matter. And so kindness is one of the core ways that we can activate that dignity in people. And that's why it's so important. But even beyond that, Paul talks about how it doesn't matter if you are, smart, if have spiritual gifts, if you could be a genius. And if you don't have love, none of that stuff matters. And since love is made up of all of these things, patience and kindness and so forth, that means that if you don't have kindness, none of these things matter, because that's what it means to have love, is to have this kindness. And so that's why Paul tells us to do everything in love, to do everything with kindness. The second kind of part, or the second point that he wants to make here, is that kindness really is it's a heart posture before anything else. It's a posture that leads to kind acts. It's a mindset where we are looking to bless the world. We are looking to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We're looking for places where we can activate that dignity in people, where we can serve other people and help them kind of live how God wants them to live, and to help them seek God and so forth. And so he gives this example of what it looks like to have this heart posture, and he gives the story of the Good Samaritan. And the story of the Good Samaritan, of course, is just this fella who gets robbed and beaten up, and he's kind of left for dead on the side of the road. He's in tough shape. And I remember reading this, being young, thinking, well, no one would just leave him there. But seeing what we've seen in the news lately, yeah, so there's a chance that people won't acknowledge your situation and they will leave you there. And so, given things that have happened recently in America, this is a particularly sensitive parable that Jesus is sharing. And so, the idea is that, like, here's this guy, he gets beat up, left for dead on the side of the road, and these two religious leaders, these hotshots in the religion, come walking by, a Levite and a priest. And of course, you're thinking, as you're imagining this situation, well, they're going to help out because they work in the temple and they're God's hands and feet here. So thank goodness they arrived. But no, they walk right on by. And that puts the beaten up person in a really tough spot, except for here comes this Samaritan, this person who the first century Jews sort of had a conflict with. They didn't like the Samaritans. In fact, many of them despised the Samaritans. And so now you're thinking, okay, well, now this guy who got beat up, he's in a tough spot because surely the Samaritan's not going to help because he's a Samaritan. So, it's over for this guy. Except the Samaritan helps and steps in and brings the person to a hotel, gives the hotel person instructions to take care of this stranger and that the Samaritan would cover the costs. And so Jesus then asks, who is this guy's neighbor? Well, it's the Samaritan. The Samaritan treated the beat up person with love and compassion. And because the Samaritan demonstrated a kindness in his heart, a posture of helping that even the priests and the Levites didn't demonstrate, which is really telling given what Paul says is that, look, you can be the priest of the temple, but if you don't have kindness, it just doesn't matter. I mean, think of it this way. When you're laying there, you're beaten up, you're desperate, you can barely move, you're on the brink of death, and the priest comes by, makes eye contact with you, and then just keeps walking. Do you really care that he is the priest of the high temple? No, you don't. It doesn't matter. He didn't help. What are you doing here? And but in this story, the Samaritan, and the point there being, of course, that you are a better representative of God on earth, even if you are a Samaritan, if you help other people, if you demonstrate kindness to other people. And that's something that we all have access to. We all have the ability to do that. And then the third point that he makes is that this type of kindness requires us to slow down. And it's so easy to make ourselves so busy that we sort of squeeze out opportunities for kindness. And the Samaritan is a good example. There's a good chance that the Levite and the priest were probably just too busy and they didn't have time for this today. And so they just left the guy there. But the Samaritan took time out of his day to help. And it's a lot easier to show kindness, to demonstrate kindness, to live out this posture of kindness if we have space in our day to do that. And if we just pack our day so full that we don't, well, then we suffocate that opportunity. And Greg shared a personal kind of confession on where he felt like he hasn't really done as good at this as he would have liked, looking back on his past. And then Greg sort of wraps up the sermon with a spoken word piece. And I was impressed. He did a spoken word. And I didn't print it out and I didn't take any notes because I was just sort of in awe of the whole thing. I thought it was just a beautiful summary of the world that we live in, the world that Greg really described in that opening bit, along with the lack of kindness that we see in the world and the power of kindness to really fuel a revolution in this world that we desperately need, given our polarization and our hostility. And so if people haven't watched it, I encourage people to check it out. I thought he did a really, really great job. Here's what I would say. I kept thinking, the text that Greg put together was A+. It was wonderful. I kept thinking, I'm very proud of Greg. Very impressed with Greg. I mean, he really knocked it out of the park. I would have liked to have seen Pierre do it also. So that would have been fun. But that's just because I'm a big Pierre fan. But seriously, really, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's definitely worth the time. That is my sermon, and we haven't even talked. You and I haven't really talked about the sermon yet. So, what did you think of Greg's sermon?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. First of all, I want to say I agree. I am so proud of Greg, and I thought that spoken word was really a powerful moment, a great way to end the service. So much so that I'm gonna steal it, and it might be my nugget because I have it written out. But where I'm going to agree with you is that it would have been really cool because Pierre has a gift with that particular creative element, and that would have been very cool. But Greg did great. It was amazing, and it was really
It was his
powerful.
first time.
I loved it. Yeah,
it's his first one.
Like, come on, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, he sets that bar. Hi. This is what I want to say about Greg's sermon. It felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt like a huge gulp of water when you are just so very thirsty. And it felt so necessary, I think is what I'm trying to say. It felt so necessary and so needed. And yet, while he was talking, I too shared some of the things he was in the front end that he talked about, the virtue signaling things and being afraid to say certain things. I too was like worried. I was like, oh, people are going to think we're trying to do that, because we get accused of being woke and all the sorts. And then I had to just kind of put that aside and say, okay, is this message true? Is it necessary? And yes, and yes, that's the answer. And so, it was for so many reasons, such a fresh drink of water. And I think just let me just zoom out for a moment. The whole service felt that way to me. The worship time, it wasn't like, your typical like dancing on your feet, rocking it out. It was more contemplative in some ways, but really reflective of just a time to bask in the love of Jesus. So I really appreciated that. And I felt like it really did just flow nicely into what Greg shared. And I think the thing that I took away, the challenge, I'll say, that I took away, because I always like to try to say, certainly I have not arrived and I haven't cornered the market on this. So what is God saying to me and how can I grow? It is that with that thing you brought up about the jewel and having many facets. Like when you talk about love, and I'm sure I've been guilty of this. I know I've heard other people say like, well, I'm doing okay with patience, but I need a little bit of help with whatever, fill in one of the other characteristics of love. And what I think I'm seeing here is you don't get to pick and choose. Love is.
Yeah.
Love is. And it is all of these different facets of love. It's not ingredients in a pie that you could just say, oh, I want to leave this one out because that's inconvenient or that sounds like a certain political agenda or what have you. It's like, no, when we're talking about the agape love of God, this is what it looks like. And these are all the things. So you can't pick out kindness and still say that you are walking in love. Well, that's an incomplete love. And so that's kind of, now, goodness gracious, please don't hear me say that you have to be perfect in all facets of love at all times, because we are, again, human and humans do human things. But I think it's important to remember, this is like, I'm going to use another word that might be triggering, a holistic love. This is a holistic love. And I just mean complete. How about that? It's a complete love. Yeah. So I really did appreciate that. And I just love the statement about kindness is really, it's showing dignity to others. And I think that is something that is so lacking. You and I have talked about that on this show many times. our world right now, and maybe it always has been this, but it just seems more magnified because of our access to people and people's thoughts and things happening.
Yeah.
But man, we love to tear people down. We love to like put people in their place. And that is something that we all, I think, need to wake up to and quit being played by the powers, because we are meant to show dignity and grace with one another. And that doesn't just mean others who think like you, who act like you, who look like you, who do life like you do. That's humanity. We are meant to show up differently for one another. And so again, that was just a beautiful reminder, this sermon was. I loved that this was talking about a heart posture. So this isn't just, now we live in Minnesota and we have this lovely thing called Minnesota Nice. And this is not that. This is a heart posture of being kind, thinking kind, behaving kind, having kind thoughts towards others, about others, and just like we've said, showing dignity to others, which I think is so necessary. And then finally, I will say I really did appreciate the bit of an imagination exercise that Greg took us through when talking about the Good Samaritan, because that could easily be a story in scripture that we're very familiar with, and it doesn't really carry the gravitas that maybe it did to the listeners hearing it for the first time back in the day. But wow, just to imagine someone like it'd be as if I had gotten beaten up and was laying in the street and Dan walks by, and I think to myself, surely Dan will help me. And he doesn't, because he's busy, because he's got things going on. And the same could be said about any number of other people that I would think surely they would help me. And then no, it's a Buffalo Bills fan, or it's someone who I feel like is enemy territory that actually does help. And so I just thought that was really helpful. It brought it alive in a whole new way. So I really enjoyed the sermon, and it's one of those that will sit with me for a while, and I hope it sits with us for a while. It's one of those that we can come back to.
We can,
over and again, because it was just that good.
Yeah, in fact, I did appreciate that angle on it, on the Good Samaritan parable, because most of the time when that parable is given, we are to imagine ourselves. Which one are we? Are we the Samaritan, or are we the Levite, or are we the priest? And so we don't imagine ourselves as in need, which is interesting. A lot of times when the parable is given, we're asked to imagine being the one in power, but it is a lot more powerful if we imagine ourselves to be the one in need, because then we can feel the power of kindness when we imagine ourselves in need. So that was a much better way of telling the parable. In fact, that is how Paul Eddy would share it as well in classes. And so I think that Paul Eddy was the originator of that angle, but he probably got it from someplace else too. But yeah, it was just, what a brilliant parable, and a great telling of it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I was wondering, and we always look to see, like you and I both, you moderate many times the chat on Sundays, meaning while the service is being live streamed, people are able to engage in the chat. And so usually Dan is one of the moderators in there. And so we are always looking at that, and we're looking at comments that come through just to kind of see, like, what are people's things? That's where we do get some questions. It's where we get comments. Sometimes it's where we get pushback. And this is one where I haven't yet seen pushback, which I'm happy. I'm happy that this seemed to have touched and blessed people. But that does cause me to wonder, like, okay, if I am like from the outside looking in, what would be the pushback on that? Like, what would be, I don't know. And it's not in a judgmental way, but I am just curious, like, what would someone say? Oh, hold on a second, you're going a bit too far there. I don't know what the pushback would be. Yeah. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I think that kindness is I think that, especially how Greg set it up and how he addressed it, I think that people really saw that, boy, we need that we
Yeah.
really need that right now. We are so unkind right now. We're very clever right now. We're doing good on cleverness. We're doing
Mm-hmm.
good on rhetoric. Boy, we're good at rhetoric. We're doing good at making creative memes that humiliate people. But
Yes,
we're
we
we're
are.
just we're really having a hard time with kindness,
Yeah.
and I think people felt like, yeah, boy, that is right. That's spot on. So
Good.
so
Well,
yeah.
good. Then maybe that means people's hearts are ready to accept this challenge because let me just say, for those of you who don't know, kindness looks different depending on where you are, when you are, the situation. Kindness will, as a heart posture, will flow more easily, more readily in certain situations. That's just the reality of it. And I think that's part of the challenge of this series is like, hey, there are going to be times when this is not going to be easy and this is not going to be your natural impulse. And
Yeah.
in those times, what are we leaning back on? What are we reverting to? Because we're trying to signal and say, hey, let it be this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important reminder.
Yeah. Hey, do you have, can you think, I'm sure we all do, but like, can you think of times when people have been particularly, especially kind to you in a way that was really sort of transformational for you?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. When was I thinking about that? We were in a meeting earlier, and I was kind of reflecting and thinking of just how powerful kindness can be. Kindness, especially when unprovoked or when you don't expect it. And and I know there have been those times in my life. I was trying to picture an exact moment, but I couldn't recall it, and I'm having trouble recalling it now. I know there have been times in my life when I expected I expected maybe some defensiveness or some harsh words or behavior, or I expected to not be shown dignity, and I was shown the exact opposite. And this, I think the surprise was because of the source of the kindness shown, who it came from, and so
Came from
very
a Samaritan,
powerful.
it sounds like.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so, and I remember in those moments in my life, just pausing and going, man, I probably judged or presumed, incorrectly about this individual
Mm.
because they have just shown me something completely different. And let me just say, I've also been impacted when I've seen kindness displayed to other people. Maybe I've just had a peripheral view of it. And again, I was surprised by the source, which that's a me issue. Like,
Mhm.
why would I not think that that particular person could be kind or loving,
Yeah.
in a certain situation? So,
Yeah.
yeah. How about you?
Yeah, boy, tons. I,
Yeah.
I really feel like, man, I would not be where I am right now without the kindness of many people. But in particular, what first comes to mind is just being a new believer and kind
Yeah.
of coming from a background that I didn't have a lot of faith and religion in my family, and some dysfunction there as well, and being able to stay with these other families for a while, for periods of time,
Mm-hmm.
and having them invite me to stay with them, and
Mm-hmm.
during these transitional times of my life, really kind of created a foundation for a better way of living, a better way of
Mm-hmm.
seeing the world, a better way of seeing others. And I think that you know I wouldn't have gone to college if it wasn't for that. And I flourished in college. I loved it.
Yeah.
But then even after college, I think of like my friend Marcus is a good example of someone who like here's an example of something. It is a story, but he we were putting shingles on a roof of this duplex that we owned, and it was hard work, and it was summertime and just toilsome work, and it was only a single story house, so it wasn't like way up there or anything, it's a very short house really. And but we're putting these ceiling tiles on there, and he went to the store for something, and he on the way there he saw this guy. He was asking for money, and he was with his son and with his wife, and he's like, well, I tell you what, I'm not going to give you money, but if you want to help us with the roof, I'll pay you for helping us with the roof. And this guy is like, oh man, I would love that, And so he comes over, and he climbs the ladder, and it became pretty clear the guy stepped up like 4 or 5 steps on the ladder, and he was terrified. Like he was afraid, like petrified of heights. And you see him looking back at his wife and his kid in the car, and then looking up at us, and he wants to come up and help. But he's terrified, he's just literally terrified. And then Marcus is like, oh, he sees this. Marcus sees this, he's like, oh, how about if you just do this? And he gives him some jobs to do kind of around on the grass,
Yeah.
And it's like
ground level.
That's right. Right. And the guy didn't really contribute anything, in helping us, but like he was able to, and then we gave him like $50 or something for a couple hours, and he went and drove off with his family, and he showed his kid that he earned the money, and it wasn't just a handout. It was, he helped us out, and but just that an act of kindness like that from Marcus, where it wasn't just giving him money, it was like giving him dignity and having him help, and treating him like, you can help us, and you have abilities, you have things that you could, not much, but he had a little bit, he could help a little bit, and to me, just stuff like that. And Marcus does that kind of stuff all the time, and kind of hanging out with him really, that rubs off on you, and whatever kindness I have out in the community, I owe a lot of it to Marcus. And so that's another reason why kindness is so important, just because other people will see it and they will become more kind. And that's sort of how that revolution might happen. So
I love that. And in fact, now you got my wheels spinning, because it's so funny how you and I come from very different worlds per se. I mean, man, woman, blah, blah, blah. There's a million different things, but there's some similarities in our life stories, which is just fascinating to me. But yeah, I recall younger in life when things in my home were so very unstable, and not safe. And it truly was the kindness of others. And in many times, almost practical strangers or people I barely knew that stepped in to help with housing or resources, or just to, because I was a kid. and so that is just huge. And were it not for those kindnesses, Shawna absolutely would not be where she is today. And that's so important. And you never know the impact. And we don't do things for impact. That's not the point. The point is out of the love that Jesus has shown us, and the love, the complete love that we're trying to walk in, that we do these things, but the ripple effects are so profound and really powerful. And I just kind of envision, in glory, whatever that looks like, just hearing these stories, like, hey, like these reunions of, you don't know this, but this, and wow. And I just think it's beautiful. And I think it's amazing.
That is fun. That is fun to think about. And praise God when you get opportunities to share that with people as well. So
absolutely. I think one thing, as I was asking you the question about what would be the pushback, really quickly, I do think that people would say, I think sometimes and it's not correct. I think sometimes kindness is associated with weakness, or just being nice, and just everything's okay, and not standing up for things, or not confronting things. And that's not true. We see that in the life of Jesus. I think we could say that Jesus, because God is love, Jesus emulated that love, and part of that love is kindness. I think we saw that in the life of Jesus, while also confronting, while also making a stand for things, while also calling certain things out. And so please don't mistake what we're saying for just everything's good, you don't ever have to challenge, or no, that's not what's being said there. So
yeah, that's right. And I mean, even if you're challenging someone, you do it with kindness. And if you're debating somebody, you do it with kindness.
Do it with kindness.
That's right.
Yeah. Amen. All right, Dan, are there any other kindness thoughts you'd like to offer?
I think other than a potential nugget, I think I'm tapped. So
okay, I like it. I do think, and I'm so sorry, because this means if I'm doing it, you can't do it. But I have my nugget, and it's just a total ripoff from Greg. But that does mean that it is
nugget time.
He's like, "Are you doing it? Are you doing it?" Yeah. So my nugget, I'm just going to say out the gate, I just thought I would reread Greg's spoken word because it was really powerful. And if you would like I am so cheating. If you would like the actual spoken word, it is included in the sermon resources connected to this particular sermon for this week. So with that being said, Dan Kent, do we want Greg's spoken word to be first, or do we want Greg's spoken word, as read by Shawna Boren, to be? That should be
last, because that's going to be a dramatic kind of close on the show.
Well, listen, it's not going to have the cadence or the rhythm or the gravitas with which Greg did it. Certainly not with which Pierre would do it. It'll just be Shawna reading it.
But you're a natural, so I think we should close on that. So,
okay,
so I think I should go first. So my nugget is really, it's one I've shared before, but it's just so pertinent to this week. And he talked in the sermon about how really the explosion of the church was fueled largely by just this radical kindness. It wasn't about making cupcakes for your neighbor. I mean, it was like, rescuing abandoned babies and raising them as your own, and, like helping people who were sick and contagious, where people who no one else would touch, and just like really profound acts of kindness is what really sort of, caused the church to explode and to grow. Is just that what gives people this radical courage to be so kind, and what is the power that fuels that? Like, what do they have that lets them do that allows them to do that, to overcome their fear? And that was a big allure for a lot of people during the growth of the early church. And Greg mentioned a quote from the Didache. There's another early church writing. This is from, I want to say it's from 95 AD. So probably just a couple decades after Revelation was written, and really a short time after the New Testament writings. But it is about the martyrdom of Polycarp. And Polycarp was an old man at this time, and the government was going after these Christians to eliminate them. And so Polycarp was sort of a big shot leader in the early church, and they wanted to get him, and they wanted to bring him to the arena to have him martyred. And so these soldiers went out looking for him, and they had a rumor of where he was, and this is what the martyrdom of Polycarp says. It says, let's see, about supper time, the mounted police and horsemen set out, armed with their usual weapons, as though chasing after an armed rebel. And closing in on Polycarp late in the evening, they found him in bed in an upstairs room in a small cottage. And though he still could have escaped from there to another place, he refused, saying, "May God's will be done." So when he heard that they had arrived, he went and talked with them, while those who were present marveled at his age and at his composure in the situation, and they wondered why there was so much eagerness to arrest an old man like him. Then Polycarp immediately ordered that a table be set for them to eat and drink as much as they wished at that hour. And he asked them to grant him an hour so that he might pray undisturbed. When they consented, he stood and prayed, so full of the grace of God that for 2 hours he was unable to stop speaking. Those who heard him were amazed, and many regretted that they had come after such a godly old man. And what I love about that is these guys are coming to kill him, and he makes them dinner, and he sets a place for them and blesses them. And that's just a radical, radical kindness, and it just makes me think, here's this guy, he's lived a life of dignity. He's got people love this guy. I mean, they see him and they're drawn to him. They're amazed by him. That's not something that just happens overnight. That's something that you build over a lifetime of being a good man. And now here's this situation where you are being chased like a criminal, and they're there with soldiers and they're armed and they want to bring you someplace to have you killed in public in a gruesome way. And yet, even in the face of that, you demonstrate kindness. And I can't help but think, if Polycarp can be kind in those conditions, I could probably be a little more kind online when some stranger says something that I disagree with. That is my nugget.
I love it. That was so good, Dan Kent. All right. Without further ado, kindness is a revolution is the spoken word that Greg shared with us on Sunday. We live in a world where screaming voices drown love's whispers, where politics spit venom like it's sport, where neighbors pass each other on familiar sidewalks without a nod, without a smile, without a word, ghosts in plain sight. Because everybody's got a full plate, a deadline to beat, a hunger to grab, a trophy to chase, a this or a that to clutch and consume. Hurry has become our national anthem. And in the stampede, we don't notice the single mom juggling groceries and children, her face etched with stress. We don't notice the old man at the gas station counting pennies as if each one carries the weight of his dignity. We don't notice the quiet despair of tired souls collapsing in the house next door. But kindness doesn't need a stage. Kindness doesn't crave a headline, a spotlight, a soundbite, a like click, or a vote. Kindness lives in a million little acts that no one tweets, that no one records, but heaven sees. A door held open, a smile that lingers, a meal quietly shared, a listening ear in a world gone deaf, a gentle hand lifting a wounded bird, a garden planted, food and beauty, respite for God's littlest brilliant creations. Small gestures, perhaps. Insignificant, never. Because whispers of kindness can silence the roar of cruelty. And sparks, tiny sparks, can set a forest ablaze. Kindness multiplies. It moves. It spreads. It infects the air like a holy pandemic you can't help but breathe in, and you find yourself changed. So what if the revolution America needs and the world aches for is not one with sharper arguments or bigger megaphones or scapegoating or propaganda, but with softer hands, steadier hearts, and eyes that look opportunities to serve? And what if the greatest protest is to love when hate is easier, to bless when cursing feels natural, to stand gentle when cruelty shouts loud? What if mercy proves stronger than malice and tenderness outlasts greed? You know this. You felt it. You've been stopped cold by a kindness you didn't expect, and it changed you, maybe for a moment, maybe forever. So come, put down your hurry, lay aside your spite, step into the quiet rebellion against the normalcy of meanness, the wicked default of Babylon. Come, fix your eyes on Jesus. Come, join us in the kindness revolution. That is my stolen nugget, written by Greg Boyd, accompanied by AI.
Yeah, right. A stolen nugget is still a nugget.
It's still a nugget. All right. Hey, you guys, thank you for being here and for tuning in, for sending in your comments, for your engagement. If you have further questions, other things you want to say to us, you can do that here.
Here it is. There it is. Right there.
There it is.
There it is. Okay. Good.
That was close. Yeah. MuseCast at whchurch.org. Dan, I was worried for a moment.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. And then there it was. So.
There it was. All right. Thanks so much. Good job, Dan, praying for your week and all that you've got going on and an easy breezy Wednesday morning appointment. Thank you guys for being here. We look forward to chatting later on. And hey, come back next week because we've got a few more sermons in the Love Is series.
That's right.
Have a great week, everyone.
All right. See you, everybody.